Hey Star Trek fans, Dan Gunther here, once again bringing you my thoughts on a new episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 2, I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee. As I said in the last video, I think that might be my favorite Star Trek episode title ever now. I mean, what an image. We'll find out what that means, I guess, as the episode goes on. So this episode starts out with this mysterious attacker once again. We saw it at the end of the last episode, attacking a Klingon ship. In this episode, we see it attacking a Romulan vessel. And we get these Romulans with their machinations being interrupted by this attack that destroys the ship and kills everybody on board. So again, clues as to the big bad of the season, I guess. We've kind of put the Pakleds and the previous season's baddies behind us for now. And this mysterious ship that seems to shut down the systems of a ship it attacks and leaves them defenseless before their onslaught. So very interesting. Now, this episode follows on from the previous one. We, of course, just learned of the promotions of Boimler, Mariner, Tendi, and T'Lyn. Rutherford, of course, himself was not promoted. And that's kind of something that comes up and is played with in this episode, as he's basically going to spend the episode trying to get promoted so that he and Tendi can continue to hang out together. I love the relationship between Rutherford and Tendi. I think that's one of the strong character relationships in Lower Decks. We saw that right there in episode 1 with the two of them, and it's kind of been this through line through the series, and I really love these two together. I think they're really sweet. So obviously behind this 100%. Now, the mission for the episode sees the crew dealing with a menagerie, which is something that comes up often. This menagerie has picked up a pair of humans and put them on display by mistake, apparently, and it's the Cerritos mission to go pick them up and get them out of there. On this mission is going to be Jack Ransom along with Mariner and a new ensign that Mariner's gonna supposedly kind of show the ropes. Early in the episode, Mariner overhears Shax and Ransom talking, and there's that classic kind of sitcom misunderstanding where the character says one thing and the other character interprets it another way or mishears it or whatever. Now, generally, I'm not a big fan of that kind of trope in sitcoms. It's kind of the Three's Company style trope, right? There's a misunderstanding and wackiness ensues until everybody figures out what's actually going on. This one's not quite as egregious as some of those tropes are. It still kind of is there, which is a little bit annoying, but it's not so much that Mariner misheard what was said and believed something completely differently. She just kind of misinterpreted one thing that he said and assumed one thing. What saves it for me is that it feeds into the psychology of Mariner and how she approaches her career and her life. Commander Ransom has noted that she has this tendency to sabotage her promotions and get demoted. And Mariner blames that on her commanding officers, saying that they're playing with her and, they'll just bust her down and she's going to do it on her own terms. And that scene at the end where Ransom kind of confronts her with that and says, this is your pattern, this is what you do. And she says, no, I don't. What are you talking about? And he says, what are you trying to do right now? And she kind of realizes what she's been doing to sabotage her promotion. And from that moment, that bit of self-realization does wonders for her character, I think. And I hope going forward, and I know they will because Lower Decks has good track record for this, going forward, she's going to take that lesson and in new and interesting ways kind of advance her career a bit. So I really enjoyed that part of the story. Now, the other part of the story, we have Boimler going to his new quarters, finding out that, it's right near the Bassard collectors and there's this omnipresent red glow coming into his cabin, which I loved because I always wondered, you see the ship, any Federation starship, and you're like, what about those quarters like right near the navigational light that's like constantly flashing, or the Bassard collectors like we see in this? And we finally learn, oh, this is what those quarters look like. And that revelation at the end, of course, where Rutherford, turns down the shade on the windows, basically totally normal. I love that. That was fun. So we finally get that answered. That's pretty cool. Now, going back to Rutherford's story where he's trying to get promoted, we see this nemesis of his, Livik, who is, every attempt that Rutherford makes to impress his superior, Livik has come in beforehand and done something, even just slightly better, and is kind of drawing that attention away from Rutherford, which is getting him really frustrated. That was fun. I'm wondering if we'll see Livik more. He could be kind of an interesting foil because, every time Rutherford is thwarted, Livik, and then at the end, it's turned around and Livik is the one who's thwarted. The way that happens, I loved, where it turns out Rutherford has been offered promotions a number of times for saving the ship from the Pakleds, for his part in taking the hull plates off at the end of season 2, for all of these things, all of these times that he's contributed to saving the ship. He's been offered promotion, but he's turned it down in order to still be able to spend time with Tendi, which is so sweet. And it makes sense because he has had a big role in helping out the ship over the years. It doesn't make sense that he hasn't been recognized for that, but it turns out he has. He just turned it down to hang out with Tendi. Poor, sweet, dumb Rutherford. But basically, he says, I can't just ask for that promotion now. They take it really hard when you turn it down. And Tendi just takes it into her own hands, yells over at Billups and says, hey, can you give Rutherford that promotion for the time that, he took the hull panels off the ship? And, oh yeah, sure. Tosses him the pip and thwarts Livik's promotion, which he's none too happy about. But Rutherford joins them now. He's promoted as well. So that was fun. I loved that little resolution to that story because I did feel it was really unfair that Rutherford wasn't promoted along with everyone else. But we find out he's been waiting for them basically this whole time. Loved this episode. I thought it was really fun. Of course, I can't not talk about the Moopsie. I mean, new cutest thing in Star Trek, absolutely. I don't know. I really like the Moopsie. The little noises it made, all of that. I know what they're doing. They're just, catering to that cute thing, but they did a really good job. The Moopsie is adorable. As dangerous as it is, I want one. I absolutely want one. So we'll go from there into the Easter eggs and the canon connections that I found in this episode. And there are quite a few. Anytime you get some sort of a zoo or museum, in this case, this menagerie, you're going to get a bunch of little continuity references. So first of all, right off the top of the episode, this Romulan ship, it's a design we've not seen on screen before in canon, but it is based on one of Andrew Probert's early designs for the Romulan Warbird, the ship that would become the mainstay of the Romulan fleet that we see throughout TNG. This was kind of a prototype, and it's cool to see that it's been made into an actual vessel in the Romulan fleet here. We see the torture chair from the Mind's Eye. This was the torture device that they used on Geordi LaForge. Apparently they were torturing Remans in it, and that's what these two crew members are cleaning up from. The one Romulan, I didn't check to see who voiced her, but she is really doing like a Carolyn Seymour voice for this Romulan. Carolyn Seymour played two notable Romulans in the past. Subcommander Taris from season 2 episode Contagion of TNG, and the season 6 episode Face of the Enemy, she played Commander Toreth. A great Romulan. She's a wonderful actor. Whoever is doing the voice of this Romulan is very much channeling that energy there. We, of course, see Shaxx and Ransom's workout outfits, and they are, of course, as we saw in the trailer, based on Crusher and Troy's outfits that we saw in TNG, the much mocked spandex workout outfits. I love that these two guys are wearing them. Wonderful. Love it. We see a bunch of Boimler's personal effects throughout the episode. We see the plaque that has the Boimler directive on it from the episode Temporal Edict in season 1. We have several action figures, a Mirror Universe Archer from In a Mirror Darkly, a movie era Spock, a First Contact Data, that would appear to be this Data holding a phaser rifle. We see his Tom Paris plate from the episode We'll always have Tom Paris. A Cerritos plate, a commemorative plate featuring the Cerritos. Well, now they've got to release that one, right? We see his model of the Stargazer that we saw in a previous season. We see he has one of those visors that Spock wears in Is There in Truth No Beauty? He uses that to block out the glare from the Bassard collectors. We see his Captain Freeman Day banner that he created. And of course his poster featuring Commander Una, number 1, with Ad Astra per Aspera on it. This was first mentioned in the Strange New Worlds episode, Those Old Scientists, and now of course we have seen it in situ in Lower Decks. Various things that we see in the menagerie. We have a Seti eel. This was the creature that Khan used to control Chekhov and Tyrell in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. There's a koala hanging out in the back there. Why is he smiling? What does he know? We see this, looks to be like it could be one of those unicorn dogs from The Enemy Within. This unicorn snake. There's a lot of unicorn things between these and the bunny corn from season 1 of Picard's Nepenthe. That seems to be a thing. Just stick a horn on an animal and it's in Star Trek. We see this creature here, which may be a sky snake from the episode A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. I didn't go back to check that episode to see if it looks quite like it, but I remember there were those snakes that flew and they called them sky snakes. I feel like that could be one of those. We see this Aldebaran serpent, which was one of the forms that Q took when he appeared on the Enterprise, I think in the episode Hide and Q. We have this big tunneling worm, which I think might be that big tunneling worm thing from the Voyager episode Basics, the one that attacked at the mouth of that cave there. I think that's what it was. It has that same kind of weird appendages there. And of course, Moopsie. Moopsie. I love Moopsie. We also, in this episode, learn what those light tube things are that are omnipresent in the background of Star Trek and other science fiction, actually. They are called Tucker tubes in the Star Trek universe. They've apparently now been supplanted, thanks to Ensign Livick, by Billups tubes. He added a third tube. Billups doesn't know what they do, but he sure likes them. I love that. That was great. We see Robin Hood holodeck adventure. We see a pair of Antedians visiting the menagerie. That's the species that Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac dressed up as in the episode Manhunt from TNG. We see an Edo family. That's the scantily clad folk from season 1 of TNG, the episode Justice. And finally, a couple of Easter eggs from Rutherford's things. We have a model of Deep Space Nine that he got in a previous episode and has since built, as well as a model tractor beam, very similar to the one that Wesley Crusher built in the second episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, The Naked Now. So there we go. Those are the Easter eggs I found. I'm sure there's a lot more to be found in that menagerie. There's a whole bunch of animals I didn't mention that didn't look to be from previous Star Treks, but I may have missed a few. Please let me know in the comments, what did I miss? And what did you think of I Have No Bones Yet I Must Flee? I personally really enjoyed this episode. Really looking forward to the rest of the season. And all that's left now, I guess, is to say thank you to you for watching, and thanks to the Patreon supporters for all of their support in getting these episodes to you. I truly do appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much. To everyone else, once again, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, as always, live long and prosper.